بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الله اصطفى آدم ونوحا وآل إبراهيم وآل عمران على العالمين ذرية بعضها من بعض والله سميع عليم إذ قالت امرأة عمران رب إني نذرت لك ما في بطني محررا فتقبل مني إنك أنت السميع العليم فلما وضعتها قالت رب إني وضعتها أنثى والله أعلم بما وضعت وليس الذكر كالأنثى وإني سميتها مريم وإني أعيذها بك وذريتها من الشيطان الرجيم فتقبلها ربها بقبول حسن وأنبتها نباتا حسنا وكفلها زكريا كلما دخل عليها زكريا المحراب وجد عندها رزقا قال يا مريم أنى لك هذا قالت هو من عند الله إن الله يرزق من يشاء بغير حساب صدق الله مولانا العظيم.
Thank you very much, Sheikh Alminder Al-Abidi. So once again, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. To be clear, this session will take place in English, French, and Arabic. You have the traduction, the interpretation equipment on your chair, or it's available from the back of the room. We will be switching between languages from time to time, so please make sure you have that available to you. So we have a very distinguished panel of experts this morning who are going to be sharing with us their views and their experience on partnering to promote women's economic empowerment as fundamental to the realization of sustainable development. So I'd like to call, please, our panelists to the dais here this morning. Thank you. We have Mr. Mohammed Al-Nasiri, who is the Regional Director for UN Women, the Regional Office for Arab States. Next to Mr. Nasiri, we have Dr. Amani Asfour. She is the President of the International Federation of Business and Professional Women. Dr. Sukaina Barouri, the Executive Director of the Center for Arab Women for Training and Research, Kautar, will be joining us shortly. Then we have, in the red, Madam Jamila Belabidi Shahid. She is the Global Purchases Group Manager for Celebrities, Sponsorships, Public Relations Purchases at Procter and Gamble. Madam Amal Hamza is the Principal Gender Specialist from the African Development Bank And I think Ms. May Babikar is well known to many of you as the Division Manager for Women, Youth and Employment Division at the Islamic Development Bank. So briefly, to take you through what you can expect this morning, we have had the recitation from the Quran. Thank you once again. We will have the Minister for Women's Affairs, Family and Children of Tunisia, Madame Naziha, Her Excellency Naziha Al-Bidi. She will be joining us this morning to provide the remarks. We will have, when she arrives, we will have her speak immediately on arrival. And then each panelist will speak for 5 minutes. Then we will have a question and answer session. The way we have structured this is to enable you to participate as much as possible. We are keeping the presentations brief for the purposes of having time for a question and answer session. We know that this will spark much interest for you, many questions, and so please feel free to ask questions at that time, remembering that the topic of this session is partnerships, and the Islamic Development Bank Group is very interested in seeing fruitful partnerships result from their annual conference, and in particular with businesswomen as a result of this session and others in the program. So the background from each of the participants is here on the booklet that you received on registration. If you'd like to know more about the participants, you have that there. You have a brief bio on the screen in front of you there. And just so you know, we have the honor of the President of the Islamic Development Bank Group, who will be providing the closing remarks. So we'll be finishing on time, and we'll be honored by the President of His Excellency Bandar Hajar at the conclusion of this session. So without any further ado, it's my very great pleasure to introduce Mr. Mohammed Nasiri, the Regional Director of UN Women Regional Office for Arab States, to provide some remarks, please, Mohammed. And we're going to speak from the floor here, so that when we come to question time, we can have a fluid discussion with you, answer your questions, move backwards and forwards to make sure you leave here with a firm understanding of the substance and how you can participate in this evolving world of women's economic empowerment. Thank you. Mohammed.
Thank you, Meg. Can you hear me well? Good. And I go by Muhammad, so Meg usually likes to misters me, but I do go by Muhammad. Muhammad is easier and lighter. Maybe I can start, and I should start by profusely thanking the Islamic Development Bank for putting the panel the way they have put it today. It's bringing together not only one stratum of entities, but you have the international organizations, you have businesswomen, you have the private sector, you have the development banks. And this is basically the gist of my intervention. We cannot do it alone. We cannot do it on our own. I think it will be very, very naive of any one of us to think that we can reach equality, we can reach economic empowerment, we can reach prosperity, and we can reach a better future without partnerships. This includes the partnerships between men and women as well in the field of the economic empowerment and the labor force. Until now, unfortunately, probably known to many, the region is still the highest when it comes to the gender difference in the economic field. Around 40% or even more of women who should be in the age of labor force are not in the labor force in this region. There are many studies that says that if the women participation goes up to an equal level to that of men in the workforce, there will be a lot of economic gains. In the region, if it goes up by 20%, the revenue can be around an additional $415 billion a year in prosperity and revenue in the region. The SDGs put the economic prosperity in the heart of it, and without the financing and the resources, SDGs will not be met. So we have one goal for women empowerment and gender equality, which is goal number 5. But it's not about a goal. It's not about only pushing for the empowerment of women. What we aim for is to utilize the input of women to reach the SDGs. And without having women there at equal footing with men on every single level, including the economic empowerment and the financial spheres, we're not going to reach the SDGs. I am going to stop here. I think I'm going to have more opportunities in the future, maybe to zoom into the region and what we do. But back to you, Meg.
What Mohammed said, what Mohammed just brought to your attention was the fact that if we can achieve women's economic empowerment, if we can have greater participation of women in the economy, we can also create jobs. Where women business owners are successful, they grow their businesses and they create jobs. So Madame Belabidi is from Procter and Gamble. As you know, it's a company, well, she's going to tell you about Procter and Gamble and the opportunity that they have, that they're providing to increase the participation of women-owned businesses in their supply chains. Jamila, please.
Yeah, thank you. Well, first of all, we are honored to be here and to be representing, in a way, the private sector. So let me give you a few words about P&G. So Procter and Gamble is a multinational consumer goods company. We've been founded 180 years ago, and we are present and active in 180 markets. We own a portfolio of 85 brands. Most of them, I'm sure you know. I will just name a few, like Gillette, Braun, Head & Shoulders, Pantene, Pampers, Tide, Always, so to name a few again. But our mission is actually to improve our consumers' life every day. We do touch billions of consumers every day, right? And our mission is to make their life better, okay? Now, we have multiple ways to do so. One is very obvious, is through providing them functional products. But there is one that is less obvious. It's about the integration in our supply chain. It's about the financial inclusion. And knowing that more than 85% of our consumers are women, it's just a no-brainer that empowering women is good for communities, and what is good for communities is good for business, okay? So that's our mission. Now, our journey on women empowerment has started a long time ago. Think of the 1800s back in the US, when we were among the first company to bring in women within our company, right? Within our production facilities. And we, from there, reiterated the experience, being proud of another example in Saudi Arabia, where we were the first consumer goods company to get a license to hire women in our company. So we really feel strong about the financial inclusion of women. But that's one step, because that's within our walls, within our company. If we open the doors and look at the whole supply chain that's outside, this is where the biggest opportunity is. Yes, we have a role to play inside, creating an inclusive environment for our women. But when you think about the power of procurement, this is definitely where we want to play. And so, and I give you a few facts, and you can make the math on your own to understand how big the opportunity is. Procter and Gamble works with 45,000 suppliers around the world. We spend every year dozens of billions of dollars. So this is where the power is, and this is, again, where the opportunity is, right? So in the 70s, again in the US, we started a program called Supply Diversity, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with. And it's evolved and became, up to now, $1 billion worth of spend with women-owned businesses there. And strong from that experience, we felt that, well, there is a need to share and reapply this program outside of the US, because we are now convinced We have evidences that having a diverse supply base is good for business. Those companies are outperforming, they are out-innovating. So we cannot prevent ourselves from thinking of reapplying outside of the US. So about a year and a half ago, we decided to, deliver a program for rest of the world. And back in September, we made a pledge. We basically leapfrogged and decided that we will be spending $100 million with women-owned businesses outside of the US over the next 3 years. So this is I have to say, it's a difficult journey. It's not that easy. We thought the infrastructure will most likely be the same than US. Well, it's not. And I have a case that I'd like really to bring here that's, I would say, speaking for itself. There is this woman in Egypt. We qualified, actually, for the first time, a woman supplier for our Egyptian facilities. And this woman is contracted for office supplies. And she's done tremendously well. She has grown up. And then she's hitting a wall because she cannot, aspire to get the funding necessary to go to the next level. So here we are. We do believe in the partnerships, as Mohammed said earlier, SDG number 17. It goes beyond than just partnering with within the private sector. We need NGOs, we need governments, we need women associations. And to support the pledge, we are currently kicking off programs in Nigeria, in Egypt, in Pakistan, and South Africa, where we are looking for women-owned business, right? Now, call for action, right? And call for all of us. The journey is still long, and we still have barriers to overcome. And the help needed is, drive awareness among all those women-owned businesses that are out there. The world is changing. We need them, right? And they have a role to play. It's the first thing. Second thing, we do need to help them grow their capabilities, but also grow, giving them the financial means. And yes, and let's continue partner, as Mohammed said. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jamila. Just want to pick up on that point. Jamila said that Procter and Gamble are seeking to spend $100 million outside of the US. That's a huge business opportunity for women entrepreneurs, including from Islamic Development Bank member states, of which she mentioned 3. So Procter and Gamble is targeting sourcing from companies owned by women in 3 of the Islamic Development Bank Group member countries, and they are Pakistan, Egypt, and Nigeria. But it doesn't stop there. These are the front-running countries that Procter and Gamble is looking at, but their spend is global, So even if you're not from one of those 3 countries, the opportunities are still very much there. She picked up the point of financial inclusion. We're going to be coming back to that in a minute with the African Development Bank Group and the Islamic Development Bank Group. But just for the minute, let's just now look at the supply side. We have obviously a big and increasing demand here from companies, from Procter and Gamble, and there are other companies like Procter and Gamble seeking to increase sourcing goods and services from companies owned by women. And so that leads us to the next question of how do you find them? So I want you to listen very closely to what it is that Dr. Amani Asfour is going to be speaking to us about business, the International Federation of Business and Professional Women. And while she's talking, try not to think of this as something that Amani is running, because what she's offering you is an opportunity for women business owners in your country to join the International Federation of Business and Professional Women, and then connect with Procter and Gamble. So this is, ladies and gentlemen, this is not just a passive listening exercise. This is about listening to hear how you can plug into the work that Dr. Amani Asfour is leading as the International President of the International Federation of Business and Professional Women. Please, Dr. Asfour, you have the floor. Okay. Good morning.
Thank you, Meg. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Good morning, everybody. So honored to be here in Tunis al-Khadra, and I am so honored that we have this fantastic panel. I would like to thank the Islamic Development Bank for organizing such a very important panel that have all the components of government, civil society, private sector, regional organization, financial institutions, and that's exactly what we really need. The International Federation for Business and Professional Women is the oldest organization in the world since 1930. that is focusing on economic empowerment of women. And we are present in 110 countries in the world, in all continents. We are honored to be represented here by Madame Laila Khayat, who is the president of BPW, Business and Professional Women here in Tunisia. Thank you for coming. So the whole issue about economic empowerment of women, our strategy for this triennium is empowering women to realize the Sustainable Development Goals. We have set up certain advocacy pillars with reference to women entrepreneurship, women policies for government and corporate procurement, which is very important. If you know that government procurement is $15 trillion per year, women have only access to 1%. So it's a huge opportunity with reference to government procurement. If we talk about one example that we lobbied the presidents during the COMESA, which is the Common Market for East and Southern Africa Summit, heads of states, and President Kenyatta of Kenya implemented this. 30% now of all government procurement in Kenya goes to small and medium enterprise, including women, youth, and people with disabilities. So it's a huge issue with reference to government procurement, how to get women-owned businesses to meet the tenders, how to finance them to be able to make the tenders. Government procurement, we heard from Procter and Gamble. Of course, financial inclusion is a huge also issue that we are advocating for, and there is central banks that met already last year and pledged to have special products for women economic empowerment and financial inclusion. So women entrepreneurship and changing the culture actually of the entrepreneurship and building and establishing business development centers and business incubators to meet the requirements of this government and corporate procurement. Because if we're talking here as partnership, and the aim of Islamic Development Bank is to bring about partnership, if we have the corporate procurement, the government procurement, you need the women-owned businesses. And that's what we supply on our side. The International Federation of Business and Professional Women, present in 110 countries in the world, we have the women-owned businesses. What we do is to see how we can link those women-owned businesses and the suppliers to the government's procurement, to the corporate procurement, how many companies, and come the financial inclusion with reference to the financial institutions to really finance these women who are either putting their tenders or supplying to corporates. So these linkages among the three partners is very important. And our strategy for the International Federation of Business and Professional Women, we have 3 pillars. We call them PPP, 3 Ps. The first P is the personality, the people. It's investment in human resources, which is women and youth, to have them educated, build their capacity, train them through our training centers, to be self-confident, self-esteem, but also to have education about the different opportunities present in the world, how they can address the tenders, how they can meet the requirements, the standards, the certification of their businesses to meet those standards. The first issue is really about her or the people. The second pillar is the policy. What policy in place that really gears for the economic empowerment of women? So we advocate with governments in order to make sure that there is special allocation for funding, there is a special procurement policy for women-owned businesses, that the governments are putting all their efforts to see how they make a one-stop shop for registration for women to have to start their companies. It's all about what is present for the government. Like, for instance, United Arab Emirates, now they put an affirmative law which is at least 30% of executive corporates, women are on board. We need this affirmative action by the government so we really achieve the economic empowerment. The third pillar is the third P is the product. If we empower the women, she's educated to build her capacity, the policy is in place, what product does she have to be able to apply it for the tender or for supply for the corporate. And so it has to be competitive, standard, quality. This is also our role of having product development, branding, designing, packaging, marketing. So we have the women-owned businesses, it's our asset, but to link her to the international market with corporates, to link her with her governments with government procurement, to link her to the international buyers, they need certain standards. And that's how we go in as Business and Professional Women International in different parts of the world, because we have, I said we are in the 6 continents, so if we're talking about North Africa or the Arab states or all Africa, we have people on the ground that can manage to link the business women on science supply with the governments or with the corporates, and through our business development centers and business incubators that we also help the young entrepreneurs to
not only governmental bodies, but also and bank or donors or international institutions, UN institution. But I think that it is very, very important to put the NGO, the civil society, the business association, the NGO Women Association in the pictures. And I am advocating for that, and I am here to give some good example coming from our partnership with the Islamic Bank, for instance. We are working with Islamic Bank and Badea, for instance, in Senegal. 600 women are today autonomous. And it's thanks to this triangular cooperation. And I think also the last, maybe the last, because I know that I have not a lot of time, that we can overcome the fragmentation and the small budget that all the banks, Islamic Bank and others, give for women. Because we don't grants. We are speaking about grants. We are not speaking about loans. And for women, there was always a small room for granting women. If we put all these small grants together by partnership, we can maximize, and we can maximize the benefit. It's on what we are working as Scouter. We are working on pilot, on methodological standard to try to build a common language, a common words, a common concepts, and after we can export this. It's my point.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Barawi. Dr. Barawi opened by noting the importance of statistics. So if you're looking for statistics and information on women in your society, clearly this is a touch point, an organization you can go to. Also, she mentioned the importance of developing women entrepreneurs, such that they have done in Senegal 600 autonomous women entrepreneurs. What does that mean? If you think about it, you might be reflecting on the landscape in your own country. You might be thinking, yes, there's this excellent opportunity here, Procter and Gamble, companies like Procter and Gamble. How do I get my women, the women in my community, to be sensitized to this and to grow the confidence to think, I can do this too? The average here for women's entrepreneurship in Tunisia, you said it's about 5–10%. It's 35% globally. So women are around the world leading businesses, growing businesses, creating employment opportunities as they do so, because remember, a successful business that's a growing business is growing employment, and this is critical in our economies. So sometimes there's that confidence gap. There's this gap, can I really do it? Can I really set up a business and grow my business? And again, NGOs, what it is that Dr. Barawi was saying, she's underlining the importance of women's business organizations and other associations to work with women to help them understand that they can make the most of those opportunities. And then Kautar also works on other areas. They work on policy, they look at legal frameworks and so on, work with governments to advise on legal frameworks. They work also with ministers of trade to help them understand how they can take women on trade missions and so on. So what Dr. Barawi is talking about is the very important role that NGOs play in this picture that's playing out before you here, of building women, seeing the opportunity that's presented, working with women's business organizations and associations like the International Federation of Business and Professional Women, and helping women come through, really realize these opportunities and say, I can do this too. And then, of course, the role of the United Nations is critical here as well, in working with you and supporting you and linking that to the realization of the Sustainable Development Goals. And when Mohammed was talking, when he was talking about the $415 billion that can be realized if we reach women's economic empowerment in this region, he was talking about economic and human development. Both of these pillars are extremely, extremely strong. Now, let's walk through an example that Jamila raised about Procter and Gamble, where they have identified a woman business owner in Egypt that they are sourcing from. This is the way it works. There's a process for becoming a preferred supplier to a large corporation such as Procter and Gamble. There's also a process for those of you who work in government to become a preferred supplier to the government or even to your banking institution. There's a process. So she's cleared that process. She's won a contract, and now they love her work and they want to buy more office supplies from her company. She needs to grow her company, and the wall that Jamila indicated that she's hit is access to finance. Now that's got to mean something to you in this room. This is the annual conference of the Islamic Development Bank. So clearly many of you are actually in finance. So let's hear from two banks about how they are tackling this issue of women's access to finance, financial inclusion, turning first to the African Development Bank and Amal. And we have the Minister. Just before we do that, it's our very great pleasure. Please, Her Excellency, we'd like to invite, it's a bit difficult to see in the darkie, Her Excellency, if you could please come to the podium. We're most honoured to have Dr. Nazia Al-Abidi with us this morning. And Madam, if you could please take the podium and for your opening remarks, please. Please, Madam.
صباح الخير. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، والصلاة والسلام على خاتم النبيين والمرسلين. في البداية أود أن أتوجه بالشكر إلى البنك الإسلامي للتنمية، وكذلك أريد أن أعتذر عن التأخير لأن من عاداتي الانضباط، ولكن للأسف تغيير المكان هو الذي جعلني أصل متأخرة. إذن نحن سعداء اليوم أن تحتضن تونس تحت إشراف سيادة رئيس الجمهورية السيد الباجي قايد السبسي هذا اللقاء. وكم هو جميل أن نلتقي في هذه الأرض، أرض تونس التي جعلت من التنمية البشرية وجعلت من الإنسان منذ الاستقلال منذ سنة 1959 أهم العناصر التي ترتكز عليها السياسة في تونس. في واقع الأمر نحن النساء المسلمات نؤمن بأننا نساء مكرمات. كرمنا الإسلام بأن وضع سورة النساء لنا فيها من المعاني الكثير والكثير والكثير. وقد سوى الله سبحانه وتعالى بين المرأة والرجل حينما قال وأنه لم يحمل المرأة والرجل الخطيئة الأولى، وإنما سوى بينهما. قال لا تقربا تلك الشجرة، وقال فوسوس لهما الشيطان. إذن هناك مساواة بين المرأة والرجل في القيم، في المبادئ، في الأفعال. إذا كان هذا شأن الإسلام، فما هو دورنا نحن في مجتمعاتنا العربية الإسلامية وفي مجتمعاتنا الإنسانية جمعاء؟ إذن للزمان تطور، هناك ثوابت وهناك متحولات. هذه المتحولات تكمن في أن الإنسان في الفضاء وفي الزمان يتحول، ولكن الثوابت تبقى هي القيم الإنسانية التي نؤمن بها. ما هو وضع المرأة في بلداننا؟ في الواقع لا أريد أن أجلد ذواتنا، هو وضع كوضع بقية النساء في العالم، هو وضع هش. ولكن هل أن بلداننا قد قامت بما ينبغي أن تقوم به؟ أعتقد أن هناك عمل تقوم به بلداننا، ويتمثل هذا العمل في أننا نضع الخطط ونضع البرامج. وأعتقد أن البنك الإسلامي للتنمية حينما اشتغل على مواضيع المرأة وحاول أن يضعها في محوره الأساسي هي في رأيي أمر من الأهمية بمكان. فإذا أعتقد أن التجربة التونسية في هذا المجال، وبما أننا في تونس وقال عنها وزير الخارجية الإيطالي بأنها لؤلؤة المتوسط، فإذا فلتبقى تونس لؤلؤة المتوسط ولؤلؤة العالم حينما نريدها أن تكون لؤلؤة تضيء طريقا وتضيء طريق النساء وطريق الرجال جميعا. إذن لا أريد أن أطيل، فقط أقول بأن المرأة عملها لا يحتسب في الميزانيات، لذلك علينا أن نفكر بأن ندمج مقاربة النوع الاجتماعي في السياسات العمومية وكذلك في التخطيط حسب مقاربة النوع الاجتماعي. وأريد فقط أن أفتح قوسا فأقول أن مقاربة النوع الاجتماعي هي مقاربة ثقافية اجتماعية بعيدة كل البعد عما هو جنسي أو جنساني. فإذا هذه المقاربة هي آلية من الآليات التي ننظر بها إلى المجتمع بالتفصيل، ويمكن من خلالها إعادة ترتيب البيت سواء كان من ناحية الرجال أو من ناحية النساء. وعندما نؤمن بالمساواة ينتفي إذن مفهوم الجنس ليحضر العوامل الثقافية والاجتماعية في التخطيط والتنمية. إذن المرأة عموما قلت بأن الإسلام جعلها في مكانة عليا. ألم تكن خديجة تسير في رحلة الشتاء والصيف لتتاجر، وكانت رفيدة أول طبيبة تضع خيمة مع الرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم لتداوي الجرحى وتذب عنه حينما يصيبه التعب. ألم تكن فاطمة الفهرية في تونس امرأة عالمة وأسست جامعة القرويين في فاس، ونحن وضعنا جائزة باسمها منذ سنتين، جائزة متوسطية، وغيرهن في العالم كثيرات. فإذن تحية للمرأة المسلمة وتحية لما يقوم به المجتمع الإسلامي رغم العثرات. بقي علينا أمر واحد، نحن النساء ونحن الرجال، وعندما أقول نحن الرجال أي نحن كمجتمع كامل، أن نعمل سويا من أجل تغيير الصورة التي يرانا بها العالم الآخر، أن صورتنا ليست في مستوى القيم والمبادئ التي خلقنا من أجلها والتي حملنا. فإذن من واجبنا نحن جميعا يدا واحدة أن نغير هذه الصورة وأن نقدم صورة جميلة وصورة أنصع مما عليه الصورة الحالية. ابن الهيثم غير وطور وأعاد نصاب نظرية الإبصار. فعلينا اليوم نحن المجتمعات الإسلامية أن نغير نظرة الآخر لنا، وأن نجعل التقدم ونجعل الحداثة ونجعل المساواة التي نزلت في القرآن ولا أحد ينازعنا فيها. إذن لنجعل من مجتمعاتنا مجتمعات متوازنة، مجتمعات تؤمن بالتسامح، تؤمن بحرية الآخر، وتؤمن كذلك بأننا نتبادل معا قضايانا ونحمل معا هموم تلك الشعوب التي تتألم الآن. لذلك أود أن أرفع تحية إكبار للشعب الفلسطيني ولكل الشعوب التي تعاني من التمييز والتي تعاني من التشريد والتي تعاني من التهجير. فقط أقول أننا نبقى دائما وأبدا ننظر إلى الآخر على أساس أنه إنسان مثلي، وأن الدمعة عندما تسيل فهي لا لون لها ولا جسد لها وكذلك لا جنسية لها، هي دمعة تمثل المأساة وتمثل كل ما يحمله الإنسان من تعبير سواء كان عن الفرح أو عن الحزن. إذن اليوم لا أريد أن أفتتح هذه الورشة إلا بكلمات فيها التفاؤل، فيها نظرة نحو المستقبل، بأننا نجتمع اليوم لنتحاور حول مواضيع تخص المرأة وعملها في التنمية الاقتصادية. أعتقد أن تونس قامت بعديد الأشياء، منها قانون القضاء على العنف ضد المرأة، والعنف تعرفون أنه مختلف، في العنف الاقتصادي الجسدي وكذلك أضفنا السياسي، ولكن لا ينبغي فقط أن نتوقف عند القوانين، ولكننا وضعنا مجموعة من الآليات التي ستساهم في تنفيذ هذه القوانين. وضعنا كذلك خطة سميناها أو وسمناها برائدة. هذه الخطة تمكن النساء من خط تمويل بنسبة تكاد تكون متراوحة ما بين 1000 و10,000 و10,100 دينار، ولكن الفوائض هي فوائض تكاد تكون غير موجودة. وهذا البرنامج نحن نسعى اليوم كتجربة نتقاسمها معا إلى جانب الخطة الوطنية لفائدة المرأة في الوسط الريفي، وهذه الخطة صادق عليها مجلس الوزراء في 8 مارس 2017، وهذه الخطة هي عملية تقاس وتنفذ وهي بصدد التنفيذ، ولم نأخذ لها محاور عديدة، فيها 5 محاور فقط لنمكن النساء في الوسط الريفي. ونعرف أن المرأة في الوسط الريفي تشتغل في الضيعات الأسرية ولا يحتسب عملها، وكذلك المرأة بصفة عامة تورث، أي لها حق الورث أنها ترث، ولكنها لا تملك، أي لا نقدم لها ورقة في أنها مالكة للأرض. فإذا هذا أيضا من المعوقات، فعلينا أن نعمل من أجل أن يكون للمرأة اعتراف بهذا العمل. وكما قال أحد الرواد في الإصلاح أن النساء يحملن نصف السماء فلهن نصف الحكم، فلما لا يكون لنا كذلك وطأة قدم في مواقع صنع القرار والمسؤولية، ونحن جديرات بهذا، كما رأيناه مع جدتنا عليسة التي أسست أولى جمهورية ووضعت أول دستور في هذا العالم الذي نعرفه نحن حسب التاريخ. فإذا تحية لكل من جاءنا من كل مكان، وتحية إلى البنك الإسلامي للتنمية، وأملي كبير أننا نتعاون سويا ومعا من أجل أن نجعل مجتمعاتنا مجتمعات تحترم بعضها البعض، وتؤمن بالاختلاف، وتؤمن بالتنمية، وتؤمن بأننا نفس واحدة لنعمل معا لتنمية مجتمعاتنا. وآمل أيضا أن نتبادل الخبرات. شكرا للاستماع، وعفوا ومعذرة إن أطلت وإن جئت متأخرة.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. And we have another exciting example of leadership in partnership for development. Her Excellency touched on some brilliant steps that the government of Tunisia has taken. For example, she talked about budget allocation. This is very important to achieve the kind of success we're talking about on the panel this morning, budget allocation. So Her Excellency was talking about budget allocation in support of rural women, in particular those who are engaged in family businesses. So clearly, those of you who are working closely with the government, this matter of allocation of public resources in support of women's economic empowerment is critical, and we have excellent leadership here from Tunisia, shared by Her Excellency this morning. Thank you very much, Madame. Thank you. Thank you. Also, Her Excellency touched on Khadija, a woman in trade. So let's go back to this example that we've been exploring this morning about women in trade. Imagine a woman, Khadija, who wants to be an international trader, and she starts by developing a small business in office supplies. small business in office supplies in Egypt. And then she finds a buyer. She finds a big international buyer, a Procter and Gamble, and she starts to sell to them. And then Procter and Gamble say, we love your materials. We want to supply all our offices in Egypt. We are interested in supplying all of our offices in the region. Can you, Khadija, can you supply more? And she knows she can hire the people. She knows she can develop her business if she can only get access to finance. African Development Bank, how would you help you?
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, all protocols observed. My name is Amal Hamza. I'm from the African Development Bank. I'm representing my director for Gender, Women and Civil Society Department, Madame Vanessa Mungar. And I think maybe most of you know the African Development Bank. We are a financial institution, but at the same time we are a development institution. We cannot do finance without development. And the bank has realized that actually we have been doing a lot, but still there is gap in our society and in the continent. There is still inequality. There is still the development or the effort that we are doing is not inclusive enough. We can do development with leaving 50% of the population behind. So the African Development Bank is working towards inclusiveness of our programs and operations. And of course, we work closely with regional member countries in all African countries. We are having the framework of the African Union 2063 agenda for development and for poverty reduction. And of course, our entry point is the country and national development plan for any country. And I think there is no country in Africa where they don't actually give attention to women empowerment or to reduce gender inequality. In this regard, the African Development Bank has approved the gender strategy 2014-2018, whereby we have 3 pillars, and we develop it in consultation with our regional member countries and different stakeholders, including MDBs and including the Islamic Development Bank. And within this strategy, one of the main pillars, actually, women economic empowerment, because we feel that there is really a lot to be done. And if women are economically empowered, they can achieve a lot for the sustainable development. They are doing a lot, but at the same time are not either not recognized, they are not there are no facilitation for their work. And therefore, we are develop different strategies of how we can tackle the issue of women economic empowerment, their constraints, the obstacles, and their frustration, actually. And within this framework, we have, of course, we start with policy dialogue. Usually, we engage with our governments or the regional member countries in financial reforms to create a proper environment where women can access finance, they can access information, they access capacity development programs, mentoring, and so on. And our second approach is actually gender mainstreaming of all our operations. And that is just compulsory for all our operations, because we find out that we deal with different sectors, and in each sector there is inequality. And at the same time is creating opportunities of how to reduce this inequality within sector, for example, energy, water sector, agriculture, and so on. Our third approach is actually to identify a niche or to identify initiatives, flagship projects to accelerate the advancement of women and women economic empowerment and to reduce the gender gap. And I wanted to give a few examples here. And I think all of course, the African Development Bank, we are not implementer. We work with government, we work with civil society, we work with the regional economic commissions and different stakeholders. So I wanted to give a few examples, like with, for example, with the regional economic commissions of COMESA, ECOWAS, and the East African Community. We are building a platform for 50 million African women, and we call it 50 million African women speak. I think women also, there is a lack of information. They need to get information and the right information. They need to share information. They need to network. And this platform is actually is to give the space for women and business women and women-led SMEs to share their experiences, to know what are the best practices, to exchange information about pricing, about opportunities, and so on. My second example is actually, it's here in Tunis, and I think maybe some people, they know about it, is Souq Tanmiya. Is the mentoring and job matching program, which the bank has started here, and it seems that it's going very well to the extent now we wanted to duplicate it in other countries in the same region. And the third one, which I wanted also to cite, is about procurement. Amani, I think, he spoke about procurement, and we feel that this is a huge opportunity, and that women have been not able to bid or to tender or so because of their because of the capacity and because of the information. And in partnership with the UN Women, we are doing assessment for 3 countries, that Kenya, which has 30% affirmative action, for South Africa, which is also have an affirmative action within the Black Empowerment Framework, and for Senegal. And we wanted to use the outcome for policy dialogue so we can exchange information with other countries about affirmative procurement. And I think the final one is about financing, and we talk a lot about financing. In 2016, the African Development Bank launched the AFAWA, Affirmative Financing for Women, and I think it has different pillars, from lending to technical capacity to supporting women, and this is really a vehicle for private sector but also public sector to provide loan to banks so they can lend to women, but with a certain modalities so we can facilitate, because financing is a big issue. Women, they want to grow their businesses, but now they have obstacle to access financing. So this mechanism, it will be about facilitating for women to get finance and to develop and to grow their business. I stop here. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Amel. Thank you very much for providing the perspective of the African Development Bank. So what Amel touched on, she also touched on some of the regional groups which are active in supporting women's economic empowerment. She mentioned COMESA, for example. So when you think about how you're going to foster the growth of women-owned companies in your country, think also about cross-border trade, and think where they might be more comfortable in actually engaging in trade. And then think about the organizations that are there to support you. We have like 4 of them minimum on the panel this morning. Dr. Sakaina, she mentioned to start with the regional support, the support that they offer within the region. And she mentioned growing women's confidence to go into this area. Of course, Amani's organization, International Federation of Business and Professional Women, is global and very strong in this region, very strong. So she can foster business linkages between women in Tunisia, Morocco, others in the region. And then, of course, we have Mohamed Nasiri, who's here. He's the regional director for UN Women. This is his day job, helping you in this regard. And then we're hearing about how the banks are working to support as well. So Amel has been speaking to you about the perspective of the African Development Bank. We're here at the annual conference of the Islamic Development Bank Group. Now, a lady who needs no introduction. She's brought us all together here, and I know you're dying to hear what she has to say about the work of the Islamic Development Bank Group. May Babika, please share us with your insights, please.
Thank you so much. I'm really delighted that we are discussing women economic empowerment in the annual meeting of the Islamic Development Bank. As you may all know, the Islamic Development Bank is a multilateral development bank that started 40-something years ago, maybe older than when I was born. So it has been working on socioeconomic development of its 57 member countries with a focus on human development. So what I like about the mandate and the vision of the bank is that heart of human development that the bank is working to achieve. And when you're talking about human, you're talking about women and men. So women empowerment is at the heart of the work of the Islamic Development Bank, at the heart of its 10-year strategy that has inclusive social development as a main pillar where women empowerment falls. It's one of the strategic thrusts of the vision of the bank. So here we are. So the Islamic Development Bank has done a lot of work on empowering women for the past 20 years, and I'm happy 2018 marks 20 years of the bank's support to women empowerment. The support to women empowerment has been in the different aspects: education, health, but most prominently is women economic empowerment. There are different entities within the Islamic Development Bank group that works on women economic empowerment. So you have ICD, which is the private sector arm of the group that works on supporting women-led SMEs through its interventions. They have a very interesting example in Yemen that works on building the resilience of small and medium enterprises in conflict-affected regions, and it has a specific percentage for women-led and women-owned SMEs. The bank works through its ITFC, which is the trade financing arm, also to support women-led SMEs in Africa. They have great initiatives there in West Africa that looks into supporting women-led SMEs. Talking about the bank itself, through its operations, the different operations of the bank, it's very known for infrastructure development. So part also of the infrastructure work has to do with job creation for women, but I will speak about two main examples that has to do with the niche of the bank, which is Islamic finance, and how it is a vehicle for financial inclusion of women. And I will talk about example of our support to the local level, working with NGOs. I think we have spoken about the different levels here in the panel, so I just wanted to complement that with these two particular examples. The work we do in Islamic finance, I will give the example of the YES program, Youth Employment Support Program, that took place in Tunisia and Egypt just after the Arab Spring. It was the response of the bank to the crisis that we need to have inclusive economic empowerment, so everybody needs to be on board, young people and women. So that program has tackled the different issues and the different barriers that young men and women face, but it has a specific target for young women entrepreneurs and young women owned SMEs. So it has the component of capacity development in terms of building their business skills, financial skills, to have bankable products that they can access the finance. So it provided the issue of accessing finance and access to skills that they needed. At the same time, creating the overall inclusive and conducive ecosystem through building the capacity of financial intermediaries to access and reach those young deprived men and women. And then it becomes the whole spectrum that you covered everything. And what is interesting about it is that using that Islamic microfinance mode, you are using an approach that is quite conducive and I would say friendly to women needs, given all the issues that they face when it comes to access to finance, the access to collateral, and all of these obstacles. The Islamic microfinance approach tackles all of that because you're not creating, first of all, you're not giving money and then asking them to give back money. You give them the asset that they need and then you take it from there. You're not going for the debt part if you have issues of repayment. This is also tackled within the package. So because of the mode of financing, then they are not affected by that. And the other example we have also in Senegal, that was a program on women entrepreneurship development and youth employment support. And also it gives this package of building the capacity, access to finance, and access to markets. So it links them with the private sector companies who are interested. It links them with a network of other women entrepreneurs so they can learn from their experiences. So we had a very successful also program in Senegal that I think can be replicated in other countries. And the last one would be about the support through NGOs, which we have done for the past 10, 15 years since 1997, so almost 20 years also, of the support through NGOs, which is building the capacities of rural women. So you're going to that level of the micro and grassroots level of rural women entrepreneurs. We had a very interesting partnership with Kauter on building capacities of women entrepreneurs in rural areas to be organized in cooperatives and to work on their olive oil plantation and having a small plant where they start production of olive oil. We have another example in Azerbaijan, where we also work with microfinance institutions, bringing the rural people to train them financial literacy and how they can access microfinance. So that is, in a nutshell, what we are doing. Just few examples. Just recently, in the 8th of March, the President launched an initiative called She Can Initiative, which is an initiative that calls for removing the barriers that women face when it comes to their full potential in economic empowerment. And we believe as a bank that if women are given the access to financial and non-financial services, then they can grow up as entrepreneurs, moving up the value chain, and then can become prominent businesswomen and become part of Amani's Federation for Business and Professional Women. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, May. So what you're hearing there is an opportunity for engagement. We're here at the annual conference of the Islamic Development Bank Group and the She Can initiative, financial and non-financial services. The information is on the website, May? Yeah, okay. So the Islamic Development Bank Group is obviously looking for your participation in this particular opportunity. Ladies and gentlemen, we've highlighted several opportunities for you to engage going forward in women's economic empowerment. As I said at the outset, this panel is not a listening exercise. This is about thinking about how you can take what you've heard, take it home, and foster the growth of women's enterprises in your community. We have a buy-side opportunity here with Procter and Gamble. We have a supply-side opportunity here offered with the support of the International Federation of Business and Professional Women, and other organizations like COTA, like UN Women, are here to offer the support in terms of capacity building. African Development Bank, Islamic Development Bank Group also talked about the services they're providing, not only financial but non-financial, also in terms of capacity building. So what do you need to make this work? We have question and answer session now. So when you pose your question, may I kindly request that you identify yourself, your organization, and to whom you'd like to pose the question. The floor is open in any language, French, English, or Arabic. Please, madam, please identify yourself. Thank you. Do we have a microphone? Yeah, we do. Thank you. Please.
I'm Abdel Mahdi. I'm from Sudan. And I used to be a state minister of finance there. And I think I very much enjoyed the general discussion here from the panelists, but I feel that there is one thing missing. Being a former state minister of finance, I think this is the area that we need to discuss more, and how to mainstream gender needs into economic policy making. And I think this is very important. The minister here touched upon the budget. Yes, fiscal policies need to be mainstreamed, budgets need to be mainstreamed. And I think, but not only fiscal policies, but also monetary policies, because monetary policies are mainly to do with the banking sector and with controlling inflationary pressures. And when inflation is high, who suffers the most? Women are suffering the most. So we need to mainstream gender into economic policies. And from this, I would like to hear from the African Development Bank and from the Islamic Development Bank, to what extent they are talking about this with governments when they give them loans. Because I also served as a member of the Women Advisory Panel for the Islamic Development Bank. And we urged them to consider discussing with the governments in their country strategy paper, which is the paper that governs the relationship between the bank and the country, to urge them to mainstream gender needs into their policies. To what extent has this recommendation been undertaken, and to what extent is it being implemented? And the African Development Bank likewise, since we don't have government here, to what extent are these two multinational institutions urging governments to take gender mainstreaming into their policy making? Thank you very much.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Madam Minister, and thank you for sharing your experience as a former minister. Thank you very much. Please, could we go to the African Development Bank, please, and then Islamic Development Bank.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think it's something we touched on it yesterday when we were preparing. I mean, about the reforms and financial reforms specifically. and how like an institution like African Development Bank can really advance the gender agenda within our regional member countries. I think for the for the African Development Bank, it's required. I mean, gender mainstreaming in all our CSPs, country strategy paper, it's a must. We have to, from the beginning, to engage with the government about mainstreaming gender in the pillars that they have chosen or in the pillar of their national development plan. I'm not saying that, it was an easy task, or it's still not an easy task. You have to really engage and you have to really discuss or debate. And I think here statistics is playing an important role. If you have a statistic and data, then governments, they tend to listen more than when you have just a qualitative kind of information. In grant, it's much easier to say to government, okay, we do this and this and this and that, and we mainstream gender. When it comes to loan, we have, or we face that the government will say, oh, it's a loan, we are paying for it. It has to be economically viable. We have to do something economically viable so we can repay back our debt. So how would you convince the government here that even if you are taking a loan, if you are not integrating gender or mainstreaming gender, it still is not in your favor, it still is not in your national development plan, and it doesn't reduce poverty and so on. So it is mainly policy dialogue, engagement, but at the same time we come to conditions if we feel that it's an extreme case. If it's an extreme case, you come and you say, okay, you have to attend to this, but otherwise we will not be able to provide the loan because it's against also our principles of gender mainstreaming. With the budget support, and I think maybe Ustaza Abda, she knows very well about the African Development Bank, we provide budget support, a lot of budget support actually to country. And in budget support, it's actually, it's not called anymore budget support, it's based lending, policy-based lending support, which we provide the loan, but on the conditions that there will be reforms. And within these reforms, up to now, we usually manage to integrate gender in there, either in their fiscal year, or either in their budget, or either in their some reforms concerning microfinance, and some reforms concerning how they financial inclusion. In some country we have managed, in other country we haven't managed, because also countries, they are different from, and their acceptance is different. But it is mainly policy, it's mainly engagement, it's mainly also towards the end condition precedent to disbursement and so on.
Thank you very much, Amel. So we're going to go to the Islamic Development Bank. The Minister from Tunisia would also like to say a few words on this. And then I'm going to invite UN Women and Kauta to say a couple of words on this as well, particularly in terms of gender budgeting and other areas. Please, May.
Yeah. Thank you. The Islamic Development Bank is not doing something on that, just to put it on the table. But moving forward, because the thinking is also moving into looking at the SDG, that all our member countries, they're all signed to the SDGs. So this is the entry point to discuss about women empowerment, gender mainstreaming, and then how we can integrate that into economic policy. I just took the opportunity to also do some promotion for the booklet that you have. So the idea is that we started with also looking into how SDG 5 on women empowerment is linked to all SDGs. And this is one of the entry points for us to start dialogue with governments and other stakeholders, that it is integral to each and every SDG. It is a prerequisite for achieving the SDGs. So this is how we would like to engage with governments on that, with that safe entry point of SDGs, and then we take it forward to economic policies. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Madam Minister, please. Would you like to?
Je vais parler en français. Je vais parler en français, alors si vous avez des... Je vous laisse le temps, parce que ce que je vais dire m'importe énormément. J'ai entendu les débats parlementaires tunisiens. Vous savez qu'aujourd'hui, en Tunisie, et heureusement, nous parlons de la décentralisation. Et vous savez que la décentralisation, c'est une question démocratique très importante, mais c'est aussi une question budgétaire très importante. La décentralisation coûte très cher. Nous allons presque doubler nos municipalités. Nous allons évidemment tripler, quadrupler, quintupler nos services. Nous avons besoin réellement d'outils techniques pour pouvoir faire la décentralisation. La décentralisation, ce n'est pas seulement les routes, les ponts, mais c'est aussi les statistiques. J'ai entendu des députés dire « Nous ne pouvons pas organiser des statistiques par genre parce que ça serait trop cher. » C'est uniquement, enfin, l'argument présenté. C'est très cher de faire des statistiques genderisées. J'appelle du fond de mon cœur la BAD, la BID, l'UN Women, d'aider la Tunisie, de soutenir la Tunisie. Comment c'est ? Le budget de support, le budget d'appui pour des conditions de réforme. On ne pourra jamais réussir une décentralisation sans statistiques. Il faut que ceux qui prétendent que le coût de la genderisation des statistiques est la raison pour laquelle on ne peut pas faire des statistiques gendérisées soient réellement relevés pour l'apprécier réellement, en faire le coût. Je vous signale que, par exemple, l'éducation nationale, du premier jour jusqu'au dernier jour de la faculté, nous savons toutes les statistiques sont gendérisées. Donc, je ne vois pas pourquoi ce serait tellement plus cher que tout le reste. Et donc, j'appelle réellement les institutions qui aident la Tunisie à se pencher sur cette question pour voir si le coût est tellement important qu'on ne peut pas gendériser les statistiques. Parce que des statistiques, et le problème de nos pays en voie de développement vient de ce que les statistiques que nous donnons pour les rankings sont des statistiques générales, moyennes, nationales. Or, le problème que nous avons, c'est les poches de pauvreté, c'est les zones rurales, c'est les zones marginalisées. Et si on veut avancer avec aussi bien le partnership du Goal 17 que tous les autres goals, si on veut vraiment remonter nos pays, on ne va pas remonter par le haut, il faut remonter par là où ça va très mal. Et là où ça va très mal, c'est là où il n'y a pas d'eau potable, c'est là où il n'y a pas de route, c'est là où il n'y a pas d'école, c'est là où ça va mal, c'est là où il n'y a pas de business, et il n'y a pas de business parce qu'il n'y a pas d'école, etc., etc. Mais on ne sait pas, parce qu'il n'y a pas de statistiques. Ce n'est pas qu'il n'y a pas de statisticiens. Nous avons de très bonnes institutions dans tous nos pays. Nous avons de très grands experts dans tous nos pays. Alors, s'il vous plaît, aidez-nous à mettre en place des statistiques qui parlent aux autres statistiques. Unifions nos méthodologies, comme ça nos pays africains, au moins, puisque nous avons ici la Banque africaine, nos pays islamiques puissent s'entendre, s'harmoniser. Et je vous remercie.
Merci beaucoup, mesdames. Nous avons l'honneur aujourd'hui d'avoir le ministre de Gendre ici aujourd'hui chez nous. Madame la ministre, s'il vous plaît.
شكرا. في الواقع للإجابة كيف فعلت تونس لوضع المخططات حسب النوع الاجتماعي. في السنة الماضية قمنا بتكوين كل أعضاء الحكومة، أي بما فيها رئيس الحكومة وكل الوزراء والوزيرات، في مقاربة النوع الاجتماعي وكيفية إنجاز الميزانيات حسب مقاربة النوع الاجتماعي. فإذا تقريبا كل أعضاء الحكومة اليوم هم متمكنون بقدر ما من هذه المقاربة. إذا ونحن معا نعمل من أجل أن تكون كل الميزانيات حساسة أو تعمل على مقاربة النوع الاجتماعي. لأجل ذلك وضعنا مجلسا أو أنشأنا مجلس سميناه بمجلس النظراء لو كونسي دي بير، وهو يتكون يرأسه رئيس الحكومة ويتكون من أعلى الإطارات أقل تقدير مدير أو مديرة عامة في مختلف الوزارات بالشراكة مع المجتمع المدني وكذلك المنظمات الداعمة بمختلف شرائحها. إذن هناك عمل على إرساء مقاربة النوع الاجتماعي. صحيح أن المجهودات موجودة والعمل موجود، ولكن هناك ثقافة للأسف، وهذه الثقافة ما تزال متمسكة بالسلطة الذكورية على المرأة. وعندما نتحدث عن المال جميل وجيد، ولكن لا ننسى الحديث والعمل عن الثقافة وكذلك عن تطوير العقليات حتى تستبطن كل الأعمال التي نقوم بها وكذلك كل البرامج التي نقوم بها. شكرا.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Madam Minister, perhaps a forward-looking statement on my behalf. Well, like that, we have definitely the focus, a very important focus on gender budgeting, budgeting to ensure, to support women's economic empowerment, and the important, and the perspective from Qatar here that we need to know, we need the statistics in the state, to know who it is we're actually supporting. Not only the number of women, of course, but where they are. And this speaks, of course, to the realization of the Sustainable Development Goals, in particular, leave no one behind. Mohammed Nasiri.
Thank you. And as you can see, Madam Minister, that your question has invited us all to speak. It's a very pertinent question. It's a very timely one. We've been working for some time now on the gender-responsive budgeting support to different governments. We've been working in the region. We have a center of excellence now in Morocco. What is important is that we do not look at it in a simplistic, monolithic way, because it's a comprehensive ecosystem. If we want, we need to see, we were speaking, Amani and I, a few weeks ago, what if Procter and Gamble wants, instead of 1 or 2 women-owned businesses or managed businesses for office supply, they need 1,000? Do we have the numbers? Do we have the database? Do we have the information? We do not. And what we were going to be doing, UN Women and the International Federation for Business and Professional Women, is to work on having a comprehensive database for women-owned businesses and women-managed businesses in Africa and in the Arab states. Why? Because if we are pushing in parallel for governments to go for affirmative action on public procurement, they will come and say, yes, but women-owned businesses are not prepared. And rightly so, they are not prepared. So we need to get the statistics. We need to work with women-managed businesses and owned businesses to support them to be able to bid, to have the financial cover, to be bankable. A lot of the small and micro businesses that are owned by women are not necessarily eligible for higher loans. Many of the women who are capable of managing businesses are not even bankable. How can we support them to be bankable? So it's not only about the gender-responsive budgeting and having the government work on the budgets, which is really necessary and pertinent, but we need to have this ecosystem functioning and in place. Thank you.
Exactly. Thank you very much. I think that speaks exactly to what Jamila was saying before, is that Procter and Gamble, they want to source from companies owned by women, need to know where they are, need the support of governments to ensure those databases are in place. Exactly to Mohammed Nasiri's point. Dr. Amani Aspo.
Thank you very much. I would really comment that in order the governments, they put the policies. Now, as business organization, we are the one who really supply the members to achieve and drive the economic growth, which is women in the private sector. I just pick up on what Mohammed has just said, because in the International Federation of Business and Profession, and we are present in 110 countries in the world, we are the members in business. So we just made a very important in this triennium statistics and database, because this will also help everybody. what sectors and clusters do we have? So we written to all our members in the world. We have women in construction. We have women in mining, like the president for Business of Fresh Women in Madagascar. We have even more oil and gas with Sudan. She's the president of BPW in Sudan. We have in textile. We have in fashion industry. We have in IT. And our theme is really about empowering women to realize the Sustainable Development Goals. Because with reference to the Sustainable Development Goals, yeah, okay, you want to acknowledge?
Oh, please finish your sentence.
Okay. So in order really to empower our women and achieve the Sustainable Development Goals, we need the partnerships of everybody. Like this now, the Islamic Development Bank organizing this panel, it's about all of us as stakeholders, how we come together, we supply the database, the membership, and we advocate for the governments, for the government procurement, for the corporate procurement. One of the things are really, which is a very important example of how this partnership is really about how we all come together to put the database and advocate the governments to achieve our economic empowerment.
Thank you very much, Dr. Asfour. And we are honored to have a champion of women's economic empowerment, and I refer specifically to the She Can initiative that May Babika took us through this morning. Champion of the She Can initiative, we have the president, the honor of having the president of the Islamic Development Bank Group with us this morning. May I please invite His Excellency, Mr. Bandar Harjar, to speak from the podium this morning. Would you like to say a few remarks, please? While His Excellency is preparing, from the podium, of course, please, Excellency, please. We'd be honored to have you with us this morning. Yeah, of course, most important.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. معالي وزيرة المرأة والأسرة والطفولة، السيدات والسادة، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. اسمحوا لي في البداية أن أشكر حضوركم لإثراء هذه الفعالية بالحوار وعرض الأفكار التي تدعم تمكين المرأة. كما أود أن أشكر مركز المرأة العربية للتدريب والبحوث للمشاركة في تنظيم هذا الاجتماع الهام. السيدات والسادة، كما تعرفون أن جهود مجموعة البنك الإسلامي للتنمية في تمكين المرأة متواصلة من خلال عملياتها وبرامجها المختلفة الداعمة لتحسين الرعاية الصحية والأمن الغذائي والفرص الاقتصادية والتعليم في بلداننا الأعضاء. وعلى مدى السنوات ال12 الماضية عززت مجموعة البنك الإسلامي للتنمية من التزامها نحو تحسين إدماج المرأة في أعمال مجموعة البنك وكياناته، وخصص البنك الإسلامي للتنمية جائزة سنوية للأفراد والمؤسسات المتميزة في تعزيز دور المرأة في التنمية. ويسعى البنك كذلك إلى تمكين المرأة من خلال تعزيز الشراكة مع البلدان الأعضاء بهدف تحسين وضعها في العالم الإسلامي من خلال مبادرات التنمية الاقتصادية على المدى الطويل الهادفة إلى التنمية الذاتية والنمو المستدام. ويظل تمكين المرأة بنداً أساسياً من استراتيجية مجموعة البنك الإسلامي للتنمية، كما بذل البنك جهداً صادقاً لمواكبة أهداف الاستراتيجية وأجندتها مع خطة التنمية للوصول لأفق 2030 إن شاء الله. معالي الوزيرة، السيدات والسادة، يعد هذا الاجتماع أحد المبادرات العديدة التي شرع فيها البنك من أجل تمكين المرأة في الدول الأعضاء. فالمرأة قادرة على التحول في أسرتها ومجتمعها واقتصاديات بلدها، بما يفضي إلى مجتمعات أكثر شمولاً وإنتاجية وصموداً. ولذلك بادر البنك بحزمة من البرامج الموجهة لتمكين المرأة أطلقنا عليها عنوان هي قادرة. ستواصل مجموعة البنك الإسلامي للتنمية العمل على تمكين المرأة من خلال عملياتها المنتظمة في قطاعاتها ذات الأولوية، وتشمل الزراعة والطاقة والنقل والتعليم والرعاية الصحية والتمويل الإسلامي، مع بذل المزيد من الجهد لضمان دمج حاجات المرأة وتخطي الحواجز التي تواجه مسيرتها. وعلى الصعيد الداخلي سنعمل على دمج أوسع لتمكين المرأة في عملنا بمزيد من الخطوات لزيادة عددهن في المناصب المهنية والقيادية في البنك الإسلامي للتنمية إن شاء الله. معالي الوزيرة، السيدات والسادة، إن مفتاح النجاح في تنفيذ البرامج والمشاريع الموجهة للمرأة هو الالتزام بدعم الشراكات التي تعزز مشاركة المرأة في التنمية، ولا تزال أمامنا مهام أكثر تحدياً لتحقيق رسالتنا المتمثلة في ضمان التنمية البشرية الشاملة في البلدان الأعضاء. وإنني على ثقة بأنه من خلال الشراكات مع المؤسسات الحكومية ومع القطاع الخاص والمجتمع المدني والأواسط الأكاديمية والبنوك متعددة الأطراف المتخصصة يمكننا أن نحدث التغيير الذي نرغب فيه في تمكين المرأة من أجل النهوض بدورها في مجالات الحياة الاجتماعية والاقتصادية. معالي الوزيرة، السيدات والسادة، نتطلع من وراء هذا الاجتماع المهم إلى نتائج ملموسة بحجم تلك الروح المتوثبة التي تحملها المرأة في دولنا الأعضاء اليوم. وفي الختام، وبالنيابة عن مؤسستكم مجموعة البنك الإسلامي للتنمية، أعرب عن شكري لمعالي الوزيرة على تشريفها لهذا الاجتماع وللمنظمين على الترتيبات الممتازة لهذه الفعالية، أو أشكركم على حسن الاستماع، والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Thank you very much, His Excellency Bandar Hajar, who has provided a laudable example of the work that the Islamic Development Bank is doing through its She Can initiative. And he mentioned that the purpose of this is to ensure we have more inclusive, productive, and resilient economies. And we went over how this works at the beginning. When we support women entrepreneurs to succeed in business, they grow their businesses, they hire more young men and women, they create employment opportunities, which is how we achieve inclusive, productive, resilient economies. This is very central to what it is we're seeking to achieve here, and the Islamic Development Bank Group in each of its 57 member states is offering that to you through She Can. And we had May Babika take us through the high points of that this morning, the entry points of that going forward, so there's an opportunity for you. You will remember that companies are also coming to your region, to your member states, saying, we want to do business with your women entrepreneurs. Procter and Gamble has a target to spend $100 million outside of the United States, including 3 member states of the Islamic Development Bank Group. As she said, it's Pakistan, Egypt, and Nigeria, which is 3 of the 4 countries that they're aiming for to achieve results in the short term. There's a huge opportunity here for women entrepreneurs in your country, and you have the support presented to you from the podium this morning. You've heard what it is that UN Women is offering from the regional perspective from Mohammed Nasiri. You've heard from Dr. Amani Asfour what it is the International Federation of Business and Professional Women in 110 countries with over 30,000 members. Many of them are in your countries, there to support your women entrepreneurs to succeed. We've heard from the regional perspective what it is that Qatar is supporting. They've underlined the very important aspect of statistics, the collection of gender, of sex disaggregated data, so we know who and how to support women entrepreneurs to ensure no one is left behind. And then we've heard of the work that the African Development Bank and the Islamic Development Bank Group have done, what they're supporting, what they're providing in terms of halal financing, ITFC, ICD, others, led by the work that May Babikar is doing here at the Islamic Development Bank Group. It's an extraordinary opportunity. So, at the outset, we gave you we said that this forum is for you. We've heard some questions from the former Minister of Sudan about the role of supporting banks, access these opportunities to support women's economic empowerment at the country level. We've heard about gender budgeting in response, part of that. Other questions, we're going to take, I think, 1, maybe 2 more questions. And as I mentioned before, if you could please identify yourself, your organization. We're going to take 2 questions. I see one here from the lady in the pink. Do we have another question? And the gentleman here, please, and then we're going to close. Madam, please start by introducing yourself. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you to the Islamic Development Bank Group, and congratulations for this forum and for the support of economic empowerment of women. I'm Zain Batia. I represent an NGO which is called Métitar Avenir, which is in partnership with the Dialogue for South, North, let's say regions. I just wanted to give you a glimpse of the work we are doing with the North region and the South region for, let's say, women entrepreneurs and young women entrepreneurs. We created 2 poles. One pole for the North, which is represented by young women which didn't have any employment and which was very happy to organize things for the young ladies, which who of course did not find any employment, and now they are starting finding very good ideas, and they are in process of creating their projects. Of course, I must say that it's in partnership with the program of the Ministry of the Women, and Mrs. Naziha Al-Abid is really, she must be congratulated for her efforts with us. The South Pole is represented by another lady as well. So we are trying to build, let's say, a culture of entrepreneurship with these ladies who really at first did not want to do anything because they had either their brothers or their fathers behind them who were saying, don't do anything, you will not be succeeding. So we went, a group of people of the association, and we went to the CAF in the North Pole. We organized training session. We enhanced on soft skills just to make them empower this role. And then we went to Duiret in Tatawin governorate, excuse me. And we said that we had now to work on the relationships and the networking between the frontiers, let's say with Algeria and Libya in the north and the south, not only to block all kinds of, let's say, perhaps regressive ideas, let's call them like that, and just to make them empower and find their own, let's say, self-esteem, and they must build up these projects. And I think that it's a very good thing NGOs are doing now in Tunisia. Partnership with, between the government, NGOs, and of course, sometimes the universities. So thank you to the Islamic Bank, thank you to Kauthar, the other, of course, institutions, and thank you to the Ministry of Women.
Thank you very much, Madame. Highlighting again that very important point about support for women entrepreneurs. It does start at that very basic level, an NGO supporting a group of women entrepreneurs to be successful. Amani shared her network is global, 50,000 members around the world, 110 countries. There are plug-in points for NGOs in rural communities to come in as well and be part of an international organization. And then into your example of trade with Algeria and Libya, of course there's a role for a government here as well. We start to trade with our neighbors. This is how it starts. Ramadan is coming, Ramadan will finish, we'll be eating nuts. Where are these nuts coming from? There's an opportunity here for rural women, for example, the support that Tunisia is giving to rural women here. And of course, when you grow, you don't just grow for your local community. This is the essence of trade. You grow what you can, and then you trade the surplus, and you trade across borders. And this is an activity in which women are participating in, and they can do so much more with the support of the government. We need the statistics, as Kautar said, then we need the financing to grow the businesses, from the Islamic microfinancing that May spoke about before, to the larger loans which are necessary to support the office supplier to Procter and Gamble, for example. We need women on trade delegations, we need the government budgets, that the minister from Sudan mentioned previously, the government allocations. We need the government and the banks to be thinking about the trade pathways, about how to get the product to market, the logistical aspects as well. It's a big composite picture that's before us. I'd like to take, please, the question from the gentleman at the back. Would you mind identifying yourself, please? Thank you.
Sorry. Thank you. I'm Syed Azam Ali. I'm CEO of Crops of the Future. You've just stolen my thunder. I was going to basically just say what you've just said. Most farmers in Africa are women, and the issues which I think colleagues from the development banks have picked up on link very closely with our colleague from Procter and Gamble. If we could diversify, just put it another way, all of the research effort goes on men's crops, because the big crops are the ones that attract research and investment, and of course the maize, the wheat, the rice we know are staple crops. All the other crops attract a finite amount or virtually no money, and those are primarily grown by women. And at the beginning of the chain, they are responsible for growing those crops, and at the end of the chain, they're responsible for the diets and the food and the products, often cross-border trade on those crops. If She Can was an initiative that could link all of these points together, we need the data, we need the evidence, we need the value chains, and we need markets for those crops that women have protected for centuries without any help, without any investment, without any research. If we could make that a flagship of She Can, which is a proposal, this would be a really strong initiative, because the multiplier effect could be enormous across Africa and across the Muslim world. And the point you made about markets for products in season and storing, processing, making them into value-added products that we could actually see out of season, these are huge opportunities. We need the data, we need the evidence, but the potential, I think, is huge.
Thank you very much. In season and in the region. May, would you like to respond to that on under She Can, what it is the Islamic Development Bank Group is offering, please?
Yeah, you too. Well, thank you so much. The whole idea of the She Can initiative has to do with two levels, which is internal to the bank and external to the work of the bank. And I'm glad that His Excellency the President is here. He's the champion of this initiative. He is a champion for women empowerment. He wanted to make a change in the way we do things, and that has to do with improving the work internally, so mainstreaming women empowerment within the existing initiative. And as you know, the bank is doing a lot of projects on infrastructure, on transport, different sectors. The idea of She Can is enabling women within the existing initiative that we have to be beneficiaries and participants at the same time of all the interventions of the bank. So it's not the idea of having a single project that is only for women. It's the idea of having women as part and parcel. We're just unlocking the barriers that they face in the different sectors and enabling them to benefit from that, because the bank is doing this business as usual, and I don't think anybody wants to create standalone just women empowerment. We want it to be part and parcel of everything. So that is the idea in the external part, working with our member countries to ensure that the programs we finance, be it the lending ones, being the grant ones, mainstream women empowerment in its interventions. We will have standalone initiative supporting to support governments with small initiatives in improving on SDG 5, for example. And as I said, we have started the work already, so it's just improving on that aspect, improving on work of NGOs, focusing on women empowerment. So it's not doing a flagship on itself alone, but improving the work we do and mainstreaming within.
Thank you very much, Med. It's really insightful, recalling the words of the Islamic Development Bank president this morning, who said it's not only external, it's internal. They're looking at training the staff on better understanding how they can actually approach outreach and inclusion of women entrepreneurs in their work as well. The bank works a lot on infrastructure, so then it's working with governments as well to understand the sectors where women are active. The gentleman who posed the question talked about women in agriculture. For example, coffee is grown at high altitudes, remote areas. If the bridge collapses, the Ministry of Public Works, the Minister of Public Works, has to understand the ramifications on women in that community that grow the coffee. It's not only about the export earnings that will be lost if the coffee can't get to market, it's the catastrophic impact of the loss of economic earnings, not on the country per se, but on the coffee growing community. And principally, coffee is grown by women in high altitudes as well. So what's the gender dimension of the Ministry of Public Works? There's a huge gender dimension in terms of the portfolio that is held by the Ministry of Public Works. To understand, as Kautar said, where women are active in the community, to understand what they're doing and to ensure their product can get to market. So again, can we commend also the Minister for Gender here, who also said that she has worked very hard with her team to educate her colleagues on what it is the gender dimension actually is. And it is about women's role in value chains and supply chains, helping fellow ministers understand that so that they can also better support women. I'm going to pass to Amani Aswar and then Dr. Carter, please.
Thank you. I just want to respond to the question of women agriculture, agribusiness, because about 80% of women in Africa are working on agriculture, agribusiness. Just recently in New York last week, the main theme was about empowering women living in the rural areas. Now, a small example of what we have been talking about with reference to procurement. As COMESA Business Council chair, because as business and professional women, Egypt is chairing the COMESA Business Council, which is the common market for East and Southern Africa in 19 countries. We have made a project which very much aligns to She Can with reference to sourcing from local vendors. Mostly the multinational companies and the supermarkets and the big hotels, they get their supplies from every part of the world. So we made an agreement with big corporates, with hotels, with supermarkets, to source from local vendors, small, medium enterprises, have them for women and youth. But they told us, okay, if we want to take from them, they need to meet our standards, our quality, our certification, our HACCP certification for food safety. So our role, what we did, we trained last year 480 small and medium enterprise, half of them women and youth, to meet the requirements. We formed them how to do packaging, branding, designing, to supply to these big corporates and hotels. So now they are not only supplying to big corporates, but also exporting within the region. So it's really made a very big impact. And just for a small testimony, last African Union Summit, when I'm giving the example of COMESA Business Council of how we trade 480 enterprise, one young woman, she just raised her hand, she said, I am one of your beneficiaries. I'm working with dried fish, and you taught us how to make vacuum and how to make packaging for it, and they are now supplying to Nakumatt, which is one of the biggest supermarkets within the east of Africa. So it's very important that what we are talking about, partnership and the initiative of She Can, to identify on the ground the businesses that needs really to build their capacity and make them in clusters, as we were talking, because database is important. We need to understand women agriculture, agribusiness, women construction, women in IT, women in different sectors, and from this database, as we met, to meet the requirements of the corporates like Procter and Gamble, but also to meet the tenders of the government procurement that we are talking about, because what we are advocating are that government procurement should put some percentage, like Kenya did. 30% of all government procurement goes to SMEs, women, youth, and people with disabilities. To meet the tenders, they need financing. That's why financial inclusion is very important, and that's why I believe the presence of the Islamic Development Bank and She Can and the African Development Bank with AFAWI is very important partnership. So the whole ecosystem, like Mohammed have been saying, how we get the data from our business-owned businesses across the world and in the member countries of the Islamic Development Bank and with our African Development Bank, how we train them to meet the requirements and which certification that they need to meet them, them, and then we made the agreement with the corporates like Procter and Gamble, with the governments. So the whole initiative, it needs a multi-stakeholder partnership, so she can make this partnership with all of us as really supply side, and how can we have the financial inclusion to make a real comprehensive she can initiative with the efforts and the partnership of all of us.
Brilliantly said, Amani, brilliantly said.
Thank you. I want to conclude with 3 points. The first one, at the end of the day, what we want to do is to make visible the invisible. And what this change in the landscape given by the Arab donors and Islamic funds for me, because I am looking to all this change now during 20 years, maybe or more, that there was something coming from these new partners. And maybe this could be the specificity of these actors to make visible the non-visible. And the best example is coming from the rural women. And as you know, we are always speaking about rural women, and we want to help them, but we have to listen to them. And maybe the point is there, is that we are not fitting their needs, and you have to know better. It's the first point, making visible the non-visible. The second point is to learn that everyone could. Yes, she can, but he can too. I think that this is my second point. Gender is not women issues. Gender is society issues. مش حرام to speak about gender by men and women. I am very proud to have Mohammed Nasri with me, always. Because it's a man, but because it's a friend, because it's good, because it's nice, because it's smart, but because he's meant to. And I am very happy when the chairperson, the big boss of he said about something, even small, even 5 minutes, because everyone in the bank would listen from now, and I am very happy. It's a change, because normally in the Arab world, in the Islamic world, sometimes better in the African world, we are not together. There was only women when we are speaking about gender issues. I am gender focal point in the OECD for governance program, you know, Mohammed. And we have the second session normally, and after the first session there was the coffee break, and after, no men, only women. Now there was a change. Thanks you for this change. And you can. It's not she can, you can. Men and women, in my second point. And my third point, please scale up what you do for the civil society. You are there because you are what you are. But the small cannot be big if she starts very small. And I think that we have to have the things for the entrepreneur and the big, and not the small, the medium and big, but you have other things for the meso and the grants and civil society. If you want them more productive, you have to scale up. And I think that it is my third point, and it's very important. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Barawi. Indeed, we would like to thank all of the men who are with us today, the men and the women who are supporting this initiative, women's economic empowerment in general, and the She Can initiative. I'm going to allow our other four panelists just a brief moment to share with you their final takeaway, what they'd like you to remember from this session. Mohammed, please.
Partnership, partnership, partnership. No one can do it on their own.
Oh, brilliant. Okay, and they're up there. Look at that. We have, so you can remember, if you have a telephone with you, your mobile telephone, please take a photo of this slide that's on the screens in a minute.
Our statements.
Yeah, the statements, because this will help you remember who the panelists are, who to go to, and what it is they want you to remember. Jamila, please, from Procter and Gamble. Can we have that slide? Thank you.
Well, first of all, I'm thrilled and I'm very energized thanks to this very rich conversation. I'd like to say yes, partnership, and definitely help those women-owned businesses to grow. There is a nice share of the pie for big companies, and they are nowhere today. So please help them build capabilities, help them access to much more interesting businesses. They're worth it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Amel, please, African Development.
Thank you very much. I think it's, for me, there are so many initiatives. We listen to so many initiatives and effort. Consolidate, document best practices, and scale up. We have to scale up. We can't be at the bottom. We have to get up.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Islamic Development Bank.
Thank you so much. What I said was what Mohammed was saying about partnership. So we must do it together. Nobody can do it alone. But I want you to walk out of this room remembering that the Islamic Development Bank is the bank of development and the bank who brought the partners together to discuss women economic empowerment. So we are saying that we are part of the global community, we are part of the work that everybody is doing on women economic empowerment, and we are facilitating that with these discussions and with partnership.
Thank you so very much. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is Islamic Development Bank on partnership. You're saying the Minister wants to speak?
I will just make our statement very clear. As the International Federation of Business and Professional Women present in 110 countries of the world, government and corporate procurement policy and financial inclusion, because what we are aiming is economic empowerment for women, because our slogan is financial independence, give you the power of choice and voice. الاستقلال الاقتصادي يعطيك القدرة على الاختيار والقوة على اتخاذ القرار. And that's why we are really focusing on women economic empowerment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we'd like to thank the President of the Islamic Development Bank Group for joining us, Mr. Hajaria. Please, we'll have a group photo, and Her Excellency also, the Minister for Women's Affairs from Tunisia. Thank you very much. And thank you all very much for joining us.